I'm sure you've had this experience where maybe you're headed to work or you're going to school or to class, and you have your car keys, you approach the car, you open the door, you start the ignition, you put the car in drive, and then all of a sudden you arrive at your destination and you don't remember the drive. You don't remember what streets you took or what you saw along the way. All you know is you left the home and you arrived at your destination, not conscious of the things that were present during the drive. I think we can easily experience this in our faith life, in our relationship with God. Except instead of a 60-minute commute to work, it's a 60-year lifetime of missed opportunities. You know, we get so used to the drive, being on the same street, seeing the same things, that we could easily miss what's happening around us. So there's this story involving Yogi Berra, the well-known catcher for the New York Yankees, and Hank Aaron, who at the time was the chief power hitter for the Milwaukee Braves. So their teams were playing in the World Series. And as usual, Yogi was doing what he could to distract the batters. And he was really working hard when Hank Aaron approached the plate. So Yogi, he tries to distract Aaron by saying, "Henry, you're holding the bat upside down. You're supposed to hold it so that you could read the trademark." Aaron didn't say anything. The next pitch that came, he hit it into the left field bleachers. Home run. After rounding the bases, Aaron, he arrives at home plate, and he looks at Yogi Berra and he says, "Yogi, I didn't come up here to read." He was laser focused on what his mission was. And he wasn't going to allow others to distract him from his purpose. You see, unlike Hank Aaron, I think too often we're easily distracted by life. We're constantly fighting off distractions. The ordinary humdrum of the day and the extraordinary things that we don't anticipate. We lose focus on God, and so we become less attentive to His presence in our lives. And see, those are intricately connected. If we don't focus on God, it's hard to see His presence. The result of this is that we easily can become dismissive, right? And we can discount the small miracles in our lives. We can dismiss what God is doing here and now because we're not attentive to it. And what do we do when we encounter a potential miracle or a God moment? It's easy for us to shrug it off as mere coincidence with smug skepticism. That was just coincidence. That was just luck. Friends, our participation at Mass and our reception in the Eucharist, our relationship with God is no different than getting in a car, turning the key, get in the car and drive, and then you arrive at your destination with no recollection how you got there. Our relationship with God, the Mass, our spiritual life, it can easily become like that car ride that we go on. After a while, we no longer notice where we are, what we're doing, where we're going, because we're just going with emotion. But you see, God has given us the ability to see His working in our life. But we see it most vividly when we're attentive to Him. We can choose to gaze at the shadow of God and spot His presence, His working in our life, or we can turn a blind eye and we can excuse what we see and what we experience away. The American author and essayist Annie Dillard, she won a Pulitzer Prize for her nonfiction work, Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. And in this book, she explores God's presence embedded in creation. And I really like what she has to say because she promotes this notion of God's presence in the world and that it's not limited to certain parts of our lives or certain parts of creation. Like we tend to put God in a box. God is present up at the top of Mount Everest, but he's not present in the slums of Calcutta. He's not present in the depravity and the sin of our life. He's just present here. But it's interesting because the point that she makes is that God's majesty is spread over everything. That we're unable to take it all in a single look because it's so profound. She essentially says that God's presence becomes subtle in ordinary ways, if you will, because his presence is too grand to comprehend in its fullness. You see, friends, I wonder if the problem in our ability to see God isn't that God's radiance shines too weakly, like he's playing hide and seek with us. I think it's the contrary. I think God's radiance shines so brightly, but the problem is with our vision, which is accustomed to darkness. And so we're struck blind and we prefer to walk through life with our spiritual eyes shut, or at best half open. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you played hide and seek. What was the best place to hide? The closet. But after a while, if you're really good at hiding, it takes some time for somebody to find you. And so you're in the darkness and your eyes get accustomed to the dark. As soon as that light turns on or the door bursts open, it's painful. And I feel like that's our experience in our relationship with God in this world. That we get so used to having our eyes closed, our hearts closed, that God's presence is always too much. But we should take a lesson from the saints. It's interesting how in the depiction of the saints, the statues, they're always depicted with their eyes open. I think it's to signal that the saint is one who is perceptive to God's presence in their life. Not only perceptive, but actively seeking his presence in their life. You see, friends, God prefers to manifest himself, his presence in this world, in subtle, ordinary ways. I mean, that's the story of the Bible. God rarely appears in grandeur, in this magnificence of life and theater. It's so subtle like bread. Friends, in celebrating this special feast of the most holy body and blood of Jesus Christ, we more than simply honor the source and summit of our faith, the Eucharist. You see, by focusing on the greatest gift ever given humanity, the body, blood, soul, and divinity of the same Jesus who died on the cross is present with us when we celebrate Mass. We're challenged to open our eyes, to see God in ordinary and subtle ways, like the form of simple bread and wine, and in the places we least expect, places that we rather even not look. So whether you're a high school graduate or a seasoned career goer, our life of faith, our relationship with God, it requires an active looking and seeking to see his presence, to be awed by his wonder. Friends, seeing the presence of God can't be done passively. Seeing the presence of God in your life cannot be done passively. Because if you do that, you'll miss the excitement and the view along the way, and you'll be wondering where time has gone, arriving at your destination, not even remembering the journey, having missed all the opportunities God has placed on your path.